He grabbed me by the collar in open court, slammed me into the defense table hard enough that it rang, leaned in like he owned the air I was breathing, and said, "Little girl, you think this is homeroom." And everybody heard it. The reporters, the jury pool, the judge sitting up there pretending he didn't see. And I remember the heat in my face and my heart going fast. And still, I straightened my jacket, looked right at Officer Rick Dalton, and I said real calm, "You just put hands on a licensed attorney appointed by federal order." Then I dropped my bar card on that table so it hit like metal on bone, and the room changed in 1 second. Because up until that moment, I was just the kid at the table, the cute story. You know what I mean? Like, look how inspiring, we let the prodigy sit near the adults. And then suddenly I wasn't cute anymore, I was a threat, and you could feel it, like the whole courthouse took one breath and didn't know who they were supposed to be afraid of now. People like to tell this part like it's the beginning, like I just woke up one day and embarrassed a cop in federal court, like it was some superhero glow-up. Nah, this started years before that. And it didn't start in a courtroom with cameras and a judge in a robe. It started in a middle school locker room that smelled like bleach and cheap body spray with fluorescent lights that buzzed and flickered like dying flies, and 4 private school kids blocking the door so I couldn't leave. I was 12, skinny tired, wearing the same sneakers I'd been wearing for a year and a half because my mom said rent came before shoes. And these boys, these rich boys who grew up knowing their last names, were basically keys. They thought it was funny to say they wanted to clean me up, like my skin was dirt, like I was something you could scrub until it passed inspection. And maybe that sounds dramatic if you never lived it, but if you have, you already know that brand of smile. One of them, Evan, pretty eyes, perfect smile, real calm, kind of mean. He had my phone in his hand, holding it just out of my reach like you do with a kid, and I'm saying, "Give it back," and he's laughing. "What you calling mommy? She on night shift again. You want her to come save you." And I can feel my whole body shaking from that cold locker room air, and then it happened, the part that never left me. My phone lit up, and I saw the screen. "Mom, 2:17 a.m. And I said, "Don't." Just that, just one word, "Don't." And he looked me dead in the face while I was still dripping from their little game, and he stomped that phone against the tile until the glass cracked and the call cut. And then they left laughing, and they locked me in there shivering on the floor in wet clothes like I was a joke, and they went back to class like nothing happened, and my mother died 2 weeks later. And that call at 2:17 a.m. was the last time she ever tried to reach me, and I never heard her voice. So when people ask why I'm like this, why I don't smile soft and play nice and wait my turn, yeah, that happened. And that was the day I decided if they wouldn't respect me for who I was, they were going to respect me for what I knew. Because after that, I stopped needing to be liked. I stopped trying to fit into rooms that were already decided. I stopped hoping that if I sat quiet long enough, somebody would come back for me. And I did the only thing that felt like control. I started to study like survival. Not like school, finished high school by 13, started law coursework by 14, spent ridiculous hours in county records reading actual trial transcripts while kids my age were posting about homecoming. And I don't say that to sound gifted. I say it because I was scared and stubborn and angry, and I needed a way to make sure nobody could ever grab my voice again and crush it under their shoe, you feel me? By 16, under this special exemption program the state claimed was experimental. I qualified for a limited bar certification, which people loved calling a miracle when they needed me for press, and loved calling illegitimate when I made them uncomfortable. Funny how that works. And by 17, I got this official-looking email inviting me to sit in on a federal case in Northport as an honorary observer. That was the phrase, honorary observer, like I was supposed to be grateful just to breathe that air. And I remember thinking, wow, somebody finally sees what I can do. Somebody believes in me. But here's what I didn't know at the time, that program didn't exist before me. There was no pipeline, no mentoring track, no structured anything. They built it around me, and not in a sweet way, in a strategic way, because I was perfect for them. I was smart enough to make the courtroom look progressive. Look, even a teenage black girl is helping the pursuit of justice. What a country. And I was young enough that if I asked the wrong question in the wrong room, they could turn around and say, I'm emotional, I'm out of order, I'm imagining things I don't understand. In other words, they wanted me loud when it made them look good and quiet when it didn't. And if I played along, I would be their proof that the system is fair, and if I didn't play along, I would be their warning story for why the system shouldn't bend. I walk into that courtroom my first day, knee-bouncing heart way too high, and that place is already thick. It's like tension is a smell. The judge, Marshall Green, sitting up there with that slow, calm voice that makes people feel like children. The way he says order, like he's disappointed. Not mad disappointed. The prosecution table stacked with files that look like they weigh more than me. Defense counsel leaning in, like they haven't slept in weeks. Reporters sitting in the back row pretending to scroll but really recording everything. And me, this 17-year-old in a blazer that still didn't sit quite right in the shoulders, sliding into the chair next to one of the defense attorneys, Marcus Hale. And I can feel the eyes like who brought their daughter to work day. And I hear somebody behind me whisper, "Is that his niece?" And somebody else goes, "No, that's that prodigy past the bar or something." And I just keep my face neutral and start taking notes. And right away I notice something nobody else in that room is talking about, and it's not because I'm special, it's because I haven't been in their system long enough to get numb to the smell. The main evidence in this case is a hallway camera video that supposedly shows the defendant going violent, resisting trying to destroy evidence. And this officer, Rick Dalton, you already met him. He swears he witnessed the whole thing with his own eyes, and the prosecutor plays the footage like it's game over. And we're all watching the feed on this big court screen, grainy overhead angle. You hear shouting, you hear someone hit the wall, you see movement get fast and right when things are about to get clear, right? When the crucial moment is supposed to appear, the entire screen cuts to black for exactly 41 seconds. Then it pops back in like nothing happened, like, oh yeah, small hiccup, carry on. Now everybody else in that courtroom just lets it happen. They write it down, they adjust their glasses, they move on. And I'm sitting there thinking, you've got to be kidding me. So I raise my hand, which you're technically not supposed to do, like you're in class, but I wasn't raised in their etiquette, so I did it anyway. And somehow through all the side talk and throat clearing and paper shuffling, the room actually goes quiet, and I say, "Your Honor, I'd like to ask why the security footage has a 41-second blackout during the only point where Officer Dalton claims he saw the defendant commit the act. And I would also like to point out that according to maintenance logs, that camera's core track battery had been replaced 19 hours before, and those batteries average 36 hours. So why did it die almost exactly halfway through its life cycle, right when the force event begins?" And I'm not yelling, I'm not dramatic, I'm just asking the question out loud, and the whole room tilts. Dalton leans into his mic with that little smirk, the kind of smirk men practice in mirrors, and goes, "Technical glitch, kid. You read too many textbooks, cameras go down. Welcome to reality." And I look at him and I say, "So you're saying it's a coincidence?" And that right there is where everything really starts, because after I said that, he didn't see a girl anymore, he saw a problem. That night they followed me, not with paperwork, not with subpoenas, with SUVs, 2 black ones, no plates in front, sitting just far enough back to make sure we could see them without getting close enough that you could snap a picture of the drivers. Yeah, that's a thing. And then a silver car jumped a light and clipped my knee on purpose. Not hard enough to disable me long term, just enough to drop me, send a shot through my leg, put some blood on the pavement test if I get scared or I get loud. And when I got home after that, limping up the stairs, shaking from pain and fury, I saw it smeared across my apartment door in still wet red paint, dripping down into the cracks, like veins, big block letters, "Stop counting seconds." And my phone buzzed right then with a blocked number texting, "Don't count the seconds. Your mother didn't count her last either." And I swear to you, I went cold, not hot, cold like everything inside froze instead of boiled. You ever get so angry, you go quiet. That's what it felt like. And I sat down on my busted little couch, turned the front camera on myself, eyes swollen from rain and adrenaline, and I recorded, "To whoever's watching me right now, you erased my mother's last call. Now you're trying to erase me. I don't scare like that. Try something else." And I backed that video up to 3 different locations because at that point I finally understood I wasn't invited into that court to learn from them. I was brought in to be used by them. Here's the part I didn't understand until later, and this is where the twist lives, this system. They all trust in that courtroom, the one that makes evidence official. It's called core track. Sounds boring, which is how you know it's dangerous. Core track is the digital clock for this federal court. Every second of surveillance footage, every body cam timestamp, every label on every clip gets run through core track, and once core track writes the number, that's it. That is now the truth in the eyes of the law. You can't argue with the timestamp because the timestamp is the law. Now listen to this part very carefully. Core track is owned and managed through a non-profit justice initiative, which sounds like something you'd see on a college brochure. And that initiative is run by Judge Marshall Green, the same man telling everyone to respect procedure, the same man telling me that law is about restraint, not emotion. The same man acting like the grown-up in the room while his private foundation literally controls the clock that decides what happened and when and who can be believed and which 41 seconds go missing. And if you're thinking, wait, that sounds like organized evidence laundering with extra steps, you're not wrong, and it gets better because the signature on the core track sync corrections, meaning the request to black out and retime key footage didn't just come from staff, it came from Green's son, Evan. Yeah, the same Evan who held my phone over a puddle when I was 12 and stomped on it while my mother was calling to say goodbye. That kid grew up into a clean shirt and a courthouse access badge, and now he's the one approving digital edits that erase use of force from official evidence logs. And when I found that out, when I saw his initials next to hold feed 0041 resume after subject restrained, I swear it felt like the past stood up in the room and put both hands around my throat. I confronted them in private first because that's how power always prefers it, in quiet offices with the blinds half closed and the air smelling like old coffee and stress. Green behind his desk, tie loosened, sighing like I'm the one making his life hard, telling me, sometimes you have to choose the lesser wrong to protect stability. And I'm standing there on a wrapped knee from his department's little love tap, like, protect stability for who? And Evan's there too, leaning against the wall, trying real hard not to make eye contact with me. And I said, are you sorry you falsified the timeline, or are you sorry you stomped my phone while my mom was calling me? And his mouth actually shook a little, and he said, both, and Green snapped, that's enough, because the truth hurts more when it doesn't ask permission. And I'm looking at them thinking, this is it, this is how it works. It's not that justice is blind, it's that justice is privately managed. After that, everything moved fast, because once you put rot under light rot tries to run, we had a special hearing cameras everywhere, not just local blogs, I mean national outlets, suits in the back row, extra security at the doors. I walked in on that brace with the drive Harold from Records gave me. God bless that man. And I plugged CoreTrack's own logs into the courtroom system and threw it up on the screen line by line, timestamp by timestamp, adjustment by adjustment. And I said, this is the original CoreTrack output prior to overwrite, including internal commands, authorization codes, and payout routing notes. And Green tried to shut me down real smooth, Ms. Carter, you are not cleared to testify in that capacity. And I cut in and said, with respect, Your Honor, I'm not here to be believed. I'm here, so the truth is present. And you could feel that hit. You could feel people in that room realize this was not going back in the box, and they stared at the screen and saw it in black and green. Hold feed, remove struggle, resume when subject is face down, all signed off by E. Green, and all routed through an account funded by the Green Justice Initiative, and then all eyes went to Rick Dalton. And for the first time since I've known his name, Dalton didn't sneer, he swallowed, and in this tight voice he said, yeah, she's telling the truth. And that courtroom just detonated, reporters standing up, deputies yelling, Green banging his gavel like he could beat the noise back into order. And Dalton kept talking. We were told to pause the feed so it wouldn't look bad. I was told it was cleared by the judge's office. I was told don't ask questions. And I'm looking at this man who put his hand on me in front of the entire world, and I don't forgive him, but I see it in his face, that split second where a man finally realizes he's not the wolf, he's the leash. After that is the part everybody posts the clip of Dalton storming toward me during recess. Face red, jaw clenched, whisper shouting, you think you're better than me because you can quote law, little girl, you think anybody is going to believe you over me? And me saying, doesn't matter who believes me, your body cam already did, because his chest cam had auto-activated when he raised his voice past threat threshold, and he grabbed my sleeve and I slammed my bar card on the table and said, you just assaulted a licensed attorney appointed by federal order. And the whole place went cold and quiet, and court security cuffed him right there in front of cameras, in front of reporters who 10 minutes earlier were still calling me the teenager. And people clapped. They actually clapped like they couldn't believe what they were seeing, like someone had reached inside the machine and hit pause. You think that's the win? Right, cuff? The racist cop roll credits not even close. 2 hours later, he was released for insufficient grounds. Then an explosive device went off by the courthouse garage, and the headline on my phone said, attempted act targeting teen whistleblower, before the smoke even cleared, and I realized something that I need you to hear. Justice is not a door you walk through. It's not like you hit one dramatic moment and you're safe forever. Justice is a hallway that keeps getting darker the further you go, and you just decide step by step if you're gonna keep walking. Green, after all that, did something I didn't expect, and don't get this twisted into a redemption movie. He didn't suddenly become pure, he just got honest with himself. He reopened one of the old CoreTrack cases, put his own foundation under review, put his own son under review, put Dalton under review, called for an external audit, and I asked him why, and he said, I'm not doing this for you, I'm doing it so I don't die a coward. And I can live with that answer, I really can. Because you don't have to love me to do the right thing. You just have to finally stop lying in public the way you've been lying to yourself in private. And honestly, that's more than most people ever do. So yeah, I'm 17, I'm not old enough to drink. I still have to ask Marcus for rides when my knee swells up, but I sat in front of a federal judge and said out loud in the record that his system is dirty, and it stayed in the record, and that matters. I promise you that matters. Because now it's not just a rumor. It's not just some angry girl said, it's evidence, it's testimony, it's light on paper, and light on paper is what roaches can't live under. People ask if I'm scared. Of course I'm scared. You think I didn't feel that blast shake my ribs. You think I don't see the black SUV that sometimes parks across from my building and turns its headlights off, but leaves the engine running. I'm not stupid. I back up everything twice. I don't walk alone unless I decide I'm ready for that. I know exactly what I'm in, but I'm also done being quiet to make other people comfortable. I'm done being told to lower my voice because the truth might get misinterpreted. I'm done being called young lady, in that tone that means, know your place. I know my place. My place is here, right in the middle of the mess, saying the thing out loud that everybody else tiptoes around because it's bad for their career. So I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to answer in the comments. I want you to actually say it where people can see you say it, not just think it to yourself in private, because silence is how this kind of thing keeps breathing. Have you ever watched someone get labeled difficult or unprofessional or angry just because they wouldn't play along with something that was clearly wrong? Have you seen somebody get pushed out, joked about, shut down? Not because they were lying, but because they were telling a truth that cost somebody money or comfort. And did you step in, or did you tell yourself, not my fight? I'm not saying that to shame you. I'm asking you to testify because I'm telling you right now, systems don't stay corrupt because of the monsters. Monsters are loud. You can see them coming. Systems stay corrupt because good people decide to keep their head down and call it staying out of drama. So drop it below and be real with me. Say, I stand with truth. If you're tired of watching people get erased in 41 seconds, tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what you've seen, because the second we start talking about it where everyone can hear us, that's the second they can't pretend it's just me anymore.